Hi, welcome back to Imperium Learning. This is the second video in a two-part series about the Johansen test. So I'm just going to dive straight into it now. I'm going to show you how to conduct the Johansen test. First thing we have to do, however, is we have to determine the optimal lag length for our variables. Now, for me personally, all we have to do, I've got 5 variables of interest. One of my variables is actually trend stationary, so it's not applicable. That was my Lund GDP variable. I'm going to be excluding that deliberately, but I'm going to be using my other 5. And all I'm going to do first is I'm going to estimate a VAR, in case you forgot. This is the format of determining the optimal lag length, so we're going to do that right now. Now, as you can see here, I've got an unrestricted VAR. The first variable, and this is quite important, that you type in is your desired dependent variable. Now, in my particular case, I was investigating the macroeconomic determinants of UK house prices. This is my house price data right here, so make sure, so that's why I'm putting it in as my first variable. So just putting that all in, like so. These are my 5 variables. Bear in mind I'm excluding the GDP data again, because I said it was trend stationary, not a unit root non-stationary process. I'm going to put in 4 as my last one because I'm using quarterly data, and then I'm just going to click OK, like so. Now we want to find the lag length that minimizes our chosen information criteria. In order to do this, all you have to do is click on View, click on Lag Structure, and then click on Lag Length Criteria. It just gives you the option to include, it just gives you the option of 8. We can click that, see what happens. Bear in mind, so this is the Schwartz information criterion there, see that, SC, Schwartz information criterion. This is the column, and look for the asterisk in the column, because that indicates the lag length that minimizes it. So as you can see, just focus on that, there's a negative there. That's the most negative value in the column, and as a result it's the minimized value. And as you can see, if we go across, it's determined it as being 2 lags. So when we apply this test, we're going to apply it with 2 lags. So with that in mind, we now know that it's going to be 2 lags. Again, you can choose other information criteria if you want. I always just choose the Schwartz information criterion because I remember reading that it chooses simpler models, and I'm a simple man, so you know that's why I choose it. Anyway, I'm just going to close this now, like so, and then I'm going to select all my chosen variables. So, and you remember you do this by holding down the control button on the bottom left hand corner of your keyboard, and then you're just going to left click all your relevant variables, like so. As you can see, they're all now highlighted. Then you're going to right click, click on open, and then click on as group. Now after this, we want to apply the Johansen test. So what are we going to do? We're going to click on View, going to click on cointegration test, like so, and then we have it, the Johansen system cointegration test. As you can see, we now have a window that's appeared up on the screen. We've got a whole load of assumptions to make that we can choose from. We don't really know what to do at this point, so what you should do is you should just have a summary of all of them, like so. Now this is important because in here, if you remember, we determined the optimal lag length as 2 using our information criterion. So as you can see there, it's 4, so we're going to delete that, and we're going to type in 2, like so, and then we're going to click OK. Now, this is why, if you look at this is the table right here that we want to focus on. And as you can see, depending on what statistic you're using, either the trace statistic or the max statistic, and depending on the assumptions that you're doing, you could actually conclude that my 5 variables either have 1 co-integration vector, or alternatively they have 2. So straight away I had a dilemma about which to choose between the trace test and the max test. Well, from this you can see I've just put in a couple of journal articles there. This is from my dissertation, which I discussed, and as you can see here, this particular one says that the trace test is better. In general, I found that a lot of the literature promoted the trace test rather than the max test. But I did also find this this journal article here. If you look that up, I'm sure if you even just Google this highlighted thing and type in relevant words like the max test and Johansson's test and so on, you'll find the relevant journal article. And it said that the max test can be better when it's applied to smaller samples of data. Now technically, even though I've got 25 years worth of data, I've only got 102 observations. If you see where my cursor is right now, you can see that my sample range from December of 1992 to March 2018, it's only 102 observations, and it's definitely on the smaller side. So because of that, I ended up opting to choose the max test for my preferred statistic when doing this test. By the way, it also just makes things a lot easier, because as I'm going to show you, as you can see, we've got the choice between selecting 2 co-integration vectors or 1 co-integration vectors, and that depends on our assumptions. Now, the thing is, how do we decide which set of assumptions to choose? So if we just go back to this co-integration test like so, we've got all these. We can assume that there's no deterministic trend in the data. We can allow for a linear deterministic trend in the data, or alternatively, we could allow for a quadratic deterministic trend in the data. Now, when I looked at when I was trying to decide which set of assumptions to choose from, well, when you read the literature, you'll find that a lot of them tend to just discard the first and the last sets of assumptions straight away. So this one right here and this one right there, so 1 and 5, they tend to just discard them straight away. Again, I'd advise you to do your own research just to corroborate everything that I'm saying. You'll find that it will corroborate everything that I say. And so that leaves you with the last 3 sets. By the way, I can see that I'm coming towards the end of this video again. I'm approaching the 10-minute mark, so I'm going to be recording yet another video. If you think the content that I showed you in this lecture was good, don't hesitate to subscribe, don't hesitate to thumbs up. It really helps support the channel. And I'll be doing a 3rd video now about the Johansson test just to wrap it all up. Okay, bye now.